What better time to wake up to heaven than when you're in the depths of hell, right? Use it as motivation. So here's our intention, I hope we'll do collectively. Our intention for the week is this: today, I gently guide my thoughts toward acceptance and love. Use no hammer on yourself. It just hurts. Doesn't help. You know, some things that are delicate and well put together don't need to be chainsawed. Do you know what I mean? They don't need to be hit with a hammer. They don't need to be radically changed. They need to be loved into something. Is that not who you want to be, loved into something? So let's do this. Take control of your thoughts so that you gently guide your thoughts toward love and acceptance. And practice this a little bit. Unbelievable. You know, I never thought I'd be singing about worms in church, but it's a fantastic addition, isn't it? Having something stupid to do before you do something serious. Don't you think it's really good? I want to also let you all know before I forget that Michael is continuing to do his discussion class, on this book at 1:30. So you could go get something to eat if you wanted to leave and come back and have time. It lasts about an hour and a half. Is that right? Okay. This book by Joel Goldsmith is a book that kind of transcends a lot of the self-help books. Its idea is not that you will get better, it's that you will be transformed. It's not that you will be incrementally more healthy or incrementally anything more satisfied in life. Is that you will find what you've been looking for. And because it's that, it makes very little attention to some of the things that you would see in most self-help books. And it just keeps pounding this idea that you need to find God. Now, I really want you to know when I say that, I do not mean another being. I do not mean something other. I don't mean that. What he is saying and what I intend to say today is that you are the very thing you've been looking for. And it's not all of you. It's not the surface part of you that's pathetic. It's that inner piece of you, which has always already been there. It is who you are at your core, but you have ignored focusing on the outer. And you know you're focusing on the outer when it matters, what everything out there needs to be a certain way for you to be happy. I was watching, I went on to Gallup polls today, I think, and I was looking for presidential approval ratings. And after that, I was looking for other ratings of when things had changed. And you'll find, Gallup, you should check this out. It's really kind of fascinating. I think Republican sentiment of how the government is doing in the last month and a half has risen 58%. At the same time, the Democrat attitude of how it's doing has fallen 35%. And that was just about the same thing that happened when Biden took over, and the Democrats went up like 50% and the Republicans went down like 30%. This happened with Barack Obama. It happened with everybody. It's just, you look at it over history, it's like, look, the world's working. Look, the world's failing. Look, the world's working. And since we've alternated quite a bit, it's fairly obvious. We think it's that important that it will control the way we feel about the nature of things. As a matter of fact, they did polling on how important the government was, and during Bill Clinton, out of all their surveys, it came up once. Under George Bush, it never came up. It has gradually grown to where now it is 30 times we think it's the most important thing. It is, so if you happen to be at this moment thinking it's great or it's terrible, realize that that's a relatively new phenomenon, that we think the government is one of the most important things in our lives. And how we feel about life is one of the things that we adjust according to how our party is doing, that is what is not finding God is all about. That your life rises and falls with external circumstances. That the way you feel about the way life is going is based on whether something or something else is happening. I address that directly, which I usually don't. I hint at it. But today, think about it. If you're carried along on the sea of news, your life is not your own. Someone else is making your life. And finding God, finding the core of who you are, is another way of saying it, is what we should be about in this building, in this time. It's finding that which is of you, and everybody else for that matter, that is the holy. Now, I'll give you I've done this the last few weeks. I'm going to do it again. I want you to ask who's having the experience of being who you are right now. Who's having the experience of sitting in a room? Who's having the experience of hearing sounds through your ears? Who's having that experience? And then the question I'll answer for you, I am. And all I'm asking you to do is pay more attention to the I am than to everything you're experiencing. Even though I'm on stage and I would like your attention, I would rather you find God. And that's the promise. I want to read what Joel Goldsmith said. And he couldn't be more emphatic than I was, I didn't think, but when I read this, he is. Once you have located God as the I, that single letter, capital single letter I, of your being, your permanent identity, you have nothing to fear. If you make your bed in hell, I am there. If you walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I am there. You have nothing to fear as long as you consciously remember that I am with you. If you are lost in the desert, that I will set a table in the wilderness for you. It will lead you to an oasis. It will keep you harmoniously until you find that oasis, and it will guide you to it. I will in the center of your being. I've been very impressed with the non-dual teachers of Douglas Harding and Rupert Spear lately, because they ask that you find it now. That it is not something way out there that you're going to have to practice for multiple lifetimes so that you could be worthy. It's kind of like saying, you believe that before you can be in the kingdom of heaven, you need to be better. It might help. Because your mind will be still and your mind will be quieter, and you can get past your mind to the deeper realization of who you really are if you don't have a really yelling mind. So meditation and cleaning up your life and cleaning up your psyche will be fantastic. But you can go there directly no matter how big a sinner you are. Because it is always in you, as you. All you have to do is find that which is you, already pre-existent and never was otherwise. You just have to find that, and then, okay, boom, now you have found God. What a very cool thing. And it is the very I of your existence. So when asked who's having this experience, you went, I. Because the experiencer is what God is doing through you as you, experiencing. And why do you think you're here? It's always a question, isn't it? What am I doing here? right? I was listening to a comedian yesterday, and she was saying, I don't think I belong on this planet anymore. Because they were talking about some stupid things that people are selling these days. It just seemed like it had gone crazy. And the world has gone crazy, but it's not your problem. Your problem is to awaken to your divine identity. That's what Goldsmith says, and that's what I say. So, here, so this is the method that I think is the fastest, which is to look and to see if you can experience who's having the experience. I'll give you a little hack for making that easy. Probably the easiest one I know is to know, this is what Douglas Harding taught, point, 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 point. And what are you pointing at here? And you would conventionally say my head, but if you look, all you can see is spaciousness around which everything is contained. This is the gateway to that experience. Point, 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 point. Who's having this experience? And what do you have is not a head here, but you have the experience. And as a matter of fact, when you do it, everything you see is within it. So all of you are in me. Right? Wild. And actually the head is conventional. Just imagine that you can see without being a seer, that all this is happening. And this is the I. When that becomes the I, who's having this experience? I am. I'm having the experience that you are here replacing my head. That's the I I'm talking about. It's the same I it was when you were walking downtown, or when you were a kid, or when you were lonely, or when you were wealthy, or when you were defeated. Right? Same I is in there experiencing. I want to tell you an analogy that Rupert Spira uses. It's an interesting analogy, and you may have to think about it some. And he does this, I'm going to change it, I'm going to cut to the chase. He does it a slightly different way. I'm going to say that the universal consciousness, what we have conventionally called God, that universal presence which has no shape, has no dimension, cannot be confined, can hardly be spoken about, that universal consciousness, for the analogy's sake, decided to have a dream. And in the dream, it dreamed you. And you were in Raleigh, and you had your life going on, and everything was amazing. It was either going great, or it was going terrible, or it was watching the politics, or it was watching your grandchildren. It was doing something. All that content of your awareness was also part of the dream that was happening. The one consciousness had the dream, and it had to squeeze itself down into you to make it so that it could have a particular kind of experience that only you could have. It squeezed itself in, and when it did, it forgot that it was everything. Because it had to compact itself down to being just you for the moment, it forgot that it was everything. And so the very architecture of your life is actually out of the same dream. So it's really still consciousness being displayed to the dream person that is you. And so the whole of everything, you, what you see, it's all that universal consciousness that has no shape or form taking shape and form. That's who you are. And so we talk about oneness here, but typically we talk about we have tried to get to oneness by being a person becoming one with something else, having a separate identity from the one presence and everything else, and trying as a thing to make it work with all the other things. It might work better if you start with this idea that you are dreamed by God in a dream that God is dreaming. And so everything you see is God, and even you are God. And if you want a great practice throughout the week, just go around thinking, I'm being dreamed by God, and everything in this dream that I see is God. Because it comes out of the same consciousness. It's like you have a dream. You have a dream, and you have a dream that you are now somebody else. And you can do that, right? You can have a dream that you're somebody else. And you're living in Charlotte, God forbid, and all that is happening. And you know the streets of Charlotte, you know all that stuff, right? And that's who you think you are in the dream. But really, you're the dreamer. And so all the content in that dream, both the person and the circumstances, was you having the dream. And so the question is, how do I get back to being all of me? And that's why you go through the I. Because this is the part that is your gateway. Imagine, let's call, you dream that you were Stan in Charlotte. Stan goes, wonder what this is all about. I wonder who's having this experience. I am. And then he sinks into the I, and as he does so, he begins to traverse back into the one presence, the one power, into God. Or into you at this moment, but you're playing the role of God. You just come back, it comes back into you, and he wakes up, and you wake up. So God is having to do something because God is formless, shapeless. To know itself, it had to play it out as dreams. And it's dreaming the world you're in right now, and it's dreaming you. What does that mean for you on a practical level? Especially if you can't get there, if it's not the direct experience, what will you do as the dreamed person? You need to practice radical acceptance. Another way of doing this. Because radical acceptance, that you go, okay, whatever's happening must be in the plan, right? Byron Katie, one of my favorite teachers, Byron Katie says, if I argue with God, I always lose, right? Or if you say, well, I really don't think it should be that way, she says, do you know better than God? And from this position that I'm talking about, this one of investigating who you really are, that's a silly thing to do. Come to a state of acceptance. Doesn't mean you become inactive, because you're still the character in the story here. Come to a state of acceptance so that you can be more like the mind of God rather than like the mind of the character. The mind of the character says, if only it will be different, if only it will be different, I'll be better, I'll be happier, I'll have success. If only it will be different. How many bloody times are you going to say that and not realize it doesn't make a damn? It changes, but you don't have a different experience because it's temporary, that moment of relief. What really counts is coming home, and that's what Goldsmith is saying. Find that you are God, and the rest will fall into place. This is radical acceptance. Accept it as it is. It conditions your mind to be able to look more deeply to see who you really are. Who you really are is this thing we've been saying for eons here. There's only one presence, one power. That sounds really good. I like it. But don't you want to know it? And to know it, one of the things that the character can do is to come to radical acceptance. It is not a direct knowing, it's conditioning you to know. I've told you a way to know directly. That there are others. But if you're having a hard time getting there, stop judging. Stop judging. And in this era, we have everybody telling us, you need to condemn the other person. You have to. They said something wrong. They don't look like you. They're a group that has harmed you in the past. They're a group that has kept you from your happiness. They're the very person who's denied you your joy. Judge them. Judge yourself. You failure, you loser. Right? Cut it out. Cut it out. I have a... Oh, I didn't mean to do that. Let me see. I think I remember. God, geez, I should have. I want to let y'all know that the Course in Miracles has the very thing I've been saying, and you just trust me on that. We made these intention cards. You know, this is our year of intention. In this church, we're trying to be intentional about awakening this year. We're not trying to be halfway awake. We're trying to come all the way home. The reason I think it's become so eminently necessary is that the craziness has gotten so extreme. That environment has gone wacky. The politics have gone wacky. Our sense of community has been diminished throughout this last few decades. It's gotten wacky. What better time to wake up to heaven than when you're in the depths of hell, right? Use it as motivation. So here's our intention, I hope we'll do collectively. Our intention for the week is this: today, I gently guide my thoughts toward acceptance and love. Use no hammer on yourself. Just hurts. Doesn't help. You know, some things that are delicate and well put together don't need to be chainsawed. Do you know what I mean? They don't need to be hit with a hammer. They don't need to be radically changed. They need to be loved into something. Is that not who you want to be, loved into something? So let's do this. Take control of your thoughts so that you gently guide your thoughts toward love and acceptance. And practice this a little bit. But you are that very Christ. It turns out that we've often thought that we're individuals, and it turns out we're really not. We're God. All of us. We are the only son of God, or daughter, or whichever, however you want, or neither male nor female. We are God as the character in God's dream. So why judge the dream? Why judge the character? Just keep looking for that deeper aspect of yourself, the awareness itself, and reside there. And since you're going to be thinking anyway, think nice things. If you can't think anything nice, don't think anything at all. Okay, let's pray. Feel your experience, please. It is so precious, just as it is. Are you happy or sad? You feel encouraged or afraid? And see if you can come to acceptance of it just as it is. It is, as they say, what it is. And perhaps you want to investigate it and see what it's all about and nurture that which seems to be missing. Because we're coming to acceptance, to quiet our minds, so it will be easier for us to see the truth of our own identity. You are the only child of God, dreamed in a world made of God. Let's awaken to that. And so it is. Amen.
I hope you got something out of today's service. We intend to bring you things that will help you in your life become more of who you want to be, give you the freedom of forgiveness and the hope of expectancy that your life will unfold in a way that brings you joy, happiness, and is a contribution to the world. If you would like to contribute to this ministry, please go to unitytriangle.org, hit the donate button, and it will lead you into an easy way of doing that. We thank you for your attention and look forward to seeing you again here.